property investor or developer, most of us work for ourselves. So you need to have the foundation blocks of an entrepreneur. That has always meant being both confident and insecure. If you're overtly confident, you think that you'll make it, but you won't put the work in. If you're very insecure, you think that you'll never make it, so you'll never put the work in. So it's confidence that puts me to bed at night, but it is insecurity that wakes me up. I took a huge risk. I bought properties in Greenwich, and that's what I won the awards for. I thought the safest way for success would be if I climbed the corporate ladder. I sat there and I thought, this is going to be my life for the foreseeable. The longer down a path you go, the narrower it gets. Is this what I want?
Welcome to another episode of the Property Developer Show, the podcast. Today I'm joined by Mariam, who's come all the way from London today, and she is a multi-award winner. 3 awards at the last Property Investor Awards. Congratulations. She's an investor based in London, and she is 27 as we speak. And I'm sure we've got a lot to unpick here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm a huge fan, so it's kind of a surreal moment being here. And I was telling you, as soon as I walked in, is you kind of see part of it on YouTube, and then you walk into the room and you're like, oh, I tried to imagine what the rest of it looked like, but the rest of it's just as nice, y'all.
Good. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you being a fan of the show, and it's good to have you on. Obviously, much deserved with the 3 awards and what you're up to at such a young age. I always feel, when I say such a young age, obviously there's only 2 years between us, but I feel like people might think I'm like 40 saying stuff like that. But anyway, obviously we were kind of chatting prior to in the taxi coming over here, and you kind of made a comment to me to say, I took the difficult path in life per se, a bit more context around that. In terms of like your entrepreneurship, obviously 27, achieving what you're achieving, do you think that's something that you were born with, or is that kind of a burning ambition that kind of has come to you over a period of time?
I think that when you look at kids at school, there's always that 1 or 2 kids that kind of stick out. Probably not always for the best reasons, or always the weird ones that get into trouble, or they like to dress a bit differently. I was that kid. And a lot of the kids that I went to school with that ended up being entrepreneurs were those kids, because from the get-go, you're thinking and looking at things differently. So I feel like the seed is always there. But then what happens between your childhood and over your teenage years is whether that seed gets watered. Mm-hmm. If you're in a nurturing environment that will support your creativity, you're more likely to want to explore it. Whereas if you are in an environment that is constantly putting you down, the likelihood of you wanting to do anything different or stick your head out of the sand becomes increasingly less likely. And so I feel like the elements were always there for me, especially since I was dyslexic anyways. And so naturally, it would always take me a different route to get to maybe the same answer as other people. Mm-hmm. And that just turned me into somebody who would always explore other options and try to think outside the box. So yeah, I feel like definitely a little bit of that when I was a kid.
Nice. It's always interesting to kind of, because there is common traits with what I suppose all the guests really who are successful in their own right. There's always that kind of natural inkling to, I've always thought slightly differently, and it's that nature nurture type scenario, isn't it? And I think you essentially need a multitude of reasons or situations to come together to give you the perfect recipe for that entrepreneurship drive, ambition, and all that sort of stuff. And I've learned, because it's always a question I used to ask, but doing the podcast and sitting with guests and actually asking the question, I've kind of picked up common traits, if you want to call it that, amongst the guests, which is always intriguing. So if someone, I guess, is trying to figure out whether they have that ambition and want to get into property, what are the sort of telltale signs that people have that drive, or they're not guaranteed success, but they've got a higher percentage chance of success?
I actually do get asked often, how do I become successful in property? But you have to strip that back. First, you need to know whether you can be a successful business owner, because essentially that's what you are. When you're a property investor or developer, most of us work for ourselves. So you need to have the foundation blocks of an entrepreneur. And for me, that has always meant being both confident and insecure. Because if you're overtly confident, you think that you'll make it, but you won't put the work in. If you're very insecure, you think that you'll never make it, so you'll never put the work in. But if you're both confident, you believe that you're going to do it, but you're insecure, so you know that you cannot do it unless you do the work, you're more likely to get to achieve success. So I want to say it's confidence that puts me to bed at night, but it is insecurity that wakes me up.
I like that. Do you know what? I actually love that. That's a really good phrase, because I think there is definitely that confidence, that light confidence, but also, like you say, that maybe the self-doubt here and there that drives you and pushes you, and particularly if you've kind of, like you say, had that dyslexia from a young age, and everyone around you probably got something quite naturally, whether it be reading or numbers, whichever way around it is. But then for you, you've always had to put that extra 20% in to get the same result as everyone else. And I think, although at the time it was no doubt painful, but the long-term kind of growth from that situation is always, you end up where you are with the nurturing, as you say, as well.
I actually didn't know I was dyslexic until I was like 22.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So on my grades at school, it was like A, and then it was like maths, D, and it didn't make any. But I grew up in Kuwait, so dyslexia was, we're like 10 years behind. So I think they're just now going through COVID, probably. But dyslexia wasn't a thing. And so I just knew that I had shortcomings, but that I could do it if I put in the work. And that just created a mindset of, I want to say obstacle overcome. You have to overcome your obstacles. But then that comes from, again, I was insecure, so I knew that I had to put in the work. I couldn't just lounge, but confident enough to know that I could do it. And I feel like if I had to tell any young person that, that's what I would say, because I see a lot of young people that for some reason think that arrogance is the secret to success. Like, I have to act like I know it all. I can't ask for help because they'll know that I'm weak, and I just got to be this big shot. And then equally, I see people that are just riddled with insecurity where they're just too afraid to start. And it's not okay to be either. There's balance in everything. You've seen the yin-yang symbol.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's pretty much life. Once you know that and you have that down, I think that you'll be okay. Be it property or restaurants or whatever it is. A lot of property investors do real estate, but then also do other things. So I never want people to think, how do I become successful in property? And they pigeonhole themselves in one area of business. If you're a good business owner, you're a good business owner. You could do anything. Maybe you just like property like I do.
And that's the Property Developer Show 2025 wrapped up. Across 5 shows, we've had over 2,000 visitors, 199 exhibitors, which is quite frustrating because we're one off 200, and 50 keynote speakers. If you missed out this year, we will be back bigger and better in 2026. We will be visiting 6 locations, starting in Bristol, then London, Southampton, Birmingham, Manchester, and finally ending in Leeds again. Register your interest on the website link in the episode description and be the first to hear when tickets go on sale. And I look forward to seeing you in the new year. One of the trickiest parts of running a successful property business is staying on top of your finance. From contractor payments to project costs, the numbers can get messy fast. That's why we've partnered with Tide. Tide is a smarter way to manage your business finance, whether you're flipping houses, managing a rental portfolio, or scaling your property company. With Tide, you can open a free business account in minutes, no hidden fees, send professional invoices and payment links, accept card payments in person or online, track expenses, and set aside tax automatically, all within the app. You can even add an expense card for your team as you grow. It's fast, clean, and built for the way property professionals work. And here's the kicker. Open a Tide account with our code PDS and spend just £100 and you'll get £50 cash back. Further information on how you can sign up in the episode description. T's and C's apply. Yeah, I mean, 100%, I agree with that testament completely. I think property is a vehicle that can be used to create other trading businesses within it. And you'll typically see that people that are successful in property have, maybe a letting agency or the Airbnb management company or property sourcing, but also invest in themselves at the same time. And I think once you kind of got that entrepreneur experience, you can implement that, because business is straightforward in principle. Obviously the technical elements differ massively, but the general sort of concept of sales, marketing, financial management, strategy, overall business strategy, they're relatively straightforward in a sense of, once you understand it for one thing, it's the same for the other thing, just the implementation is different. So I think you're definitely right in that sentiment for sure. So kind of jump into the property stuff then. Obviously, you're doing an incredible amount for a 27-year-old. What was kind of that first initiation for you? Where did that kind of stepping stone start to get to where you are today?
I always dabbled in property, be it flipping terraced houses. I had like a hand in it, but I was also pursuing my legal career. I think once I decided that I could go into it full throttle, I started to hang out with people that were where I wanted to be. and had achieved what I wanted to achieve. And I just turned into a sponge when I was around them, and I absorbed as much information. And once I knew enough about it, I knew that it is something that I could potentially be successful in. And I think that that was the turning point for me, because it was always in the background. I just had no idea how I was going to take myself from where I am to that point. Like, that leap just seemed like miles away, and I had no idea where to even begin. It was only until realizing that that leap isn't really much of a leap. It's just a gap of knowledge, and that can be filled if you surround yourself with people that know what you'd like to know. Or, funnily enough, I kind of discovered months later that most of the information surrounding property actually online. It's on government websites, all that planning stuff, almost everything. And I was like, this is all accessible. Like, what was I so worried about? It's all right there. It's just taking the time and then believing in yourself. So that's when I did the leap. I took a huge risk, and I bought properties in Greenwich, and that's what I won the awards for. But that was, I had something to prove almost. So I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm not just going to be okay at it. I'm not just going to be average, because I was doing pretty well in my legal career. If I do this, I need to be incredible at it. It's kind of shoot for the stars. If you miss, you land amongst the moon kind of thing. So then I bet on it, and I put my all into it. And I thought, if it doesn't work out, you know what, at least I could say I really tried and I really did the best. And then it worked out. And that was just my little stamp of confirmation of, I'd at this point surrounded myself with people that believed in me and supported me. And then I built off of that by putting the work in.
Nice, amazing. I think it's that mentality that you've mentioned there, that kind of, if I'm going to do this, it's 110%. It's not 99.9%, it's 110%. And I think when you've kind of approaching things, because I was the same, when I left full-time work, I was kind of like, right, I've got enough to survive, but I don't want to go back to work. That's not an option. I want to move forwards. And it was almost like in my mind, I would use the phrase burn the boats, if you've heard of that analogy. It was like no choice but to move forwards. And evidently you took the same approach, and it's worked. So maybe that's a trait that also people need to consider.
But actually, I'm going to go back to that only because with property, we are dealing with money and people saving. So I do kind of want to say, if you are starting out, we're always like, give your all into it. But simultaneously, if this is your first development, try to hire a project manager or a mentor, preferably somebody who is either older than you, much older than you, because they have more experience, or they're backed by somebody who's older than you. And I only say that because a lot of my clients have come to me and they've tried to invest previously, and they've entrusted a mogul online or something, and something's gone wrong. And this is money that people work really hard for. I'm sure you worked hard in your 9 to 5. I know I did. I would have hated to just lose that because I trusted the wrong person. So whilst we're saying, give it that all, I only did that after I had been in shallow water for a while, and only after I surrounded myself with people that can support me, hold me if I fall, educate me, answer all of my questions.
Yeah.
Kind of little disclaimer.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I mean, in my sort of view, I think there's two sides to property, though. I think, there's a side that we're discussing now, which is like the entrepreneurial side, where it's all about scalability and sort of trying to generate and create a business. And then the other side of property is like, the wealth preservation side, where people can just invest and then forget, in a way. And they, like yourself with the sourcing that you do, clients come to you because they're cash rich, time poor, and they just want to park their money in a safe investment. 9 times out of 10, to then generate some form of capital growth or wealth from that investment. And I think if you're approaching it from that perspective, you don't necessarily need to be entrepreneurial. You just need to do the right due diligence and make sure that the person that you're dealing with, as you say, it's not some mogul that's just talking a load of nonsense. It's someone that you can rely on to deliver what you need. But then if you want to go the entrepreneurial route, and then put like the scale up and the side that you're on, then it's all about that commitment, 110%, making sure that you're giving it everything that you possibly can to.
I still say on your first one, try to find somebody to help you out.
Sure, yeah. No,
just to minimize, because everybody always loses money on their first couple of projects. As much as you can minimize your margins, your contingency, the better.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of people that want to get on their journey and do it themselves. And I'm always like, for your first one, if you can have somebody else take the bulk of the risk, and then you kind of teach it as an educational the course and just learn, absorb. You'll be good to go for your second one, rather than kind of almost like a gamble. You're going into something relatively blind. Yeah. So I think regardless, if this is your MO, you want to do it forever, or you're just parking your money somewhere, if this is your number one property developments, because I do, so I offer the end to end. So we do sourcing, developments, refinance, rental, the whole thing. And I meet people at different stages. And I say this because a lot of people find us during the development stage because they've already lost money. Either they bet on themselves or they hired a wrong contractor, because it does kind of look easy. You look online. I thought it was easier before I actually divulged into it. You're like, I'm just going to hire somebody, kind of, especially if you're doing PD. You're like, I'm just going to build 6 bedrooms and bathrooms. Like, how hard could it be? And then you get into it and then you start hearing the stories. And most recently, I had a client come up to me. And this is probably why I'm mentioning it, because it's something like very fresh in my mind. I had the conversation yesterday, and they wanted to build a 6-bed HMO, but then the person they didn't realize that your bathroom is not included into your room space. So they included it. And then on the exit, their rooms were about 4 meters squared because they had 2 meters in the bathroom. They spent money on this because they didn't realize. And it was like, of course, we're like, how do you even make that such a rookie mistake? Well, of course, they didn't know any better. And I can imagine the contractors they dealt with probably didn't know. And that's why sometimes it's just the little things. They probably did everything else perfectly. And it was just that. But you don't know, it might be the smallest thing that trips you and then makes you lose money. I've worked in developments where we've had to knock down a wall, and it was a load-bearing wall. And then we had to stick like 3 steel beams in it. And it was like, okay, so we've just dipped into our contingency by about £10,000 because we knocked down one wall. But that's the thing in property. You're dealing with money, and sometimes you'll do the little things that you won't think are big deals. You've got the property, you've got the team, everything seems great, but then it ends up costing you a lot. And so if you have somebody who's more experienced, since then we always check the walls. But even before we draft the floor plans, I know what's going to look like if we knock these down.
So you obviously mentioned PD, permitted development, and again, we were chatting about that on the way over. That's something that you sort of focus on.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us a piece around why you focus on that?
Yeah, sure. So for the client projects, as soon as we've passed through conveyancing, the second they receive the keys, the build team is in, and we're already stripping things out, and they have a bridge loan. The whole business model wouldn't work with full planning, because we will get the property, we'll get a bridge loan for 12 months, we'll complete the property in 6 months because we know we're going to extrapolate its value, and then we do a refinance, client pulls out some of their money, we rent it out. However, if you have full planning, it just throws a wrench through the whole thing. We have no idea what we will get, how long it will take, how much money the client will need. They won't be able to get a bridge on the onset because they'll just be paying for no reason. They'll have to get a mortgage, and if it's a buy-to-let mortgage, they'll be in default if we try to do any works, and it just throws a wrench in. However, if somebody's doing a luxury build, so I've done a couple of those, then it's worth it, because if it's a house you're going to live in, then it's okay. For every planning application that I've put in, I've actually lost every single one, but I've won every single one on appeal.
Wow.
So I don't know if this is a good thing, but it's because I know what the planning policies are. And the thing with full planning is the policies are online, so you can read them and make sure you've adhered to them. It's only fair that they make you aware of what the policies are. And then the second step is what you're building going to blend in with the road? So if it's a luxury house, it's not going to stick out. Essentially, if you're driving down the road in a year, can you tell that this is new, or does it blend? If it blends, then you should be okay. However, that's not always the case, and that's why I stay away from full planning. Sometimes the council will disregard it because they don't like it. And I don't like it is infinitely appealable. You can always get, and when you appeal, it goes to a third-party independent team in Bristol. So they're not the council. They will literally look at the facts and will probably, well, I want to say, in my case, I've granted the appeal. But the process from launching that application to going to the council to get it through appeal, you're talking months. And then also there's no real guarantee. So whilst it can be worth it in some cases, from the client projects and the HMO side, not always. We do still do full planning on HMOs, but we're going into the loft on a road where everybody's gone into the loft. So it's less likely to be rejected. But when I say full planning, I mean like we're changing the whole thing, class changes essentially. Or just massive wraparound extensions. the council gets nervous. So I'd never advise a client to go through full planning. If they've already got planning applications, we'll take it on. For myself, every single planning route I've taken has just been for my own portfolio, so I can afford to take the risk. But I probably I wouldn't in my business.
Yeah. I mean, it's speed, isn't it, more than anything? And
It's speed, it's certainty. It's me being able to say to the client, this is what your investment portfolio will look like, and then be able to pretty much stick to that, par 10% here or there contingency, rather than being like, this is what we can do, but also we have no idea if we're going to do this. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pray to the gods of the council because we don't know.
Yeah, the gods at the council. Yeah, absolutely. So I assume then you're mostly buying outside of Article 4 areas to add that value, and because is it still 3 seats, 3-4? It's been a while since I did a HMO conversion.
Unless it's an existing HMO within an Article 4, you don't inherit the license, but you do inherit the established use. So if there's an existing HMO and they can prove that they've had a license for X amount of years before Article 4, then they can be great, to be honest with you.
Nice.
They can be really incredible to invest in.
What area are you investing in?
So because I live in West and my whole team is in West, I prefer to stay in and around that area. London is very big. So when I say West London, I mean literally an hour radius from West London. Like we'll go to Reading, but what we won't do is East London, which is like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. Right. With that being said, I have invested there. It's just more costly because I get premium rates with my team or our subcontractors in West because of the influx of work we give them. I don't have the same loyalties in East, so I'm usually paying market rates. And then if something has happened that I would prefer to have my team on it, and it's only fair that I compensate them for that literal 4-hour round trip that they've had to do. Yeah. So for that reason, I prefer to stay more West, but I haven't locked off East, to be honest.
How did you find sort of building that power team, as people call it, the contractor team?
I created a chain of command.
Okay.
So there's myself, and I'm a project manager, and then I have a principal contractor who I refer back to. He is my point of contact when it comes to the build team. He goes to the property every single day, and he is in charge of the plumbers, the electricians, the men that work, because at the beginning of my journey, I didn't have him. I was the person that was speaking to them. Yeah. And well, you've met me. How do you think that went? You're like, I can tell you didn't go well. They wouldn't do things properly. I didn't know any better. I was on YouTube trying to figure out how to wire a house to make sure they did it properly. So he has been massively helpful. And then that also means I always have access to labor and materials because I agree a price with him and a time scale, and then it's up to him to deliver. So underneath him, he has a team that he has a salary on, so they're always there. And then he has subcontractors that he will then refer back to and will just alternate. And then above me, or not so much above me, is I have my business partners, and they back the development side.
Sure.
And they've been doing it 20 odd years, but they're more silent. So everything that grows through the table, although I feel like I've reached a point where I don't really need them per se, but I want to have them there. It's just like peace of mind.
Of course.
Whenever I have anything, I show it to them. They're like, yeah, it looks good. I'm good to go. And that little, yeah, it looks good, just gives me a massive sigh of relief. And then, not to say nothing goes wrong, but if something goes wrong, I have somebody that I can call.
Yeah.
So that chain of command has just made it much more smoother. And then it's allowed me to focus on what I can do, which is the design elements. But before I had that, it was chaos.
Yeah. I'm sort of the same as you. Like, I'm not so good at the project management, like the actual delivery side. I kind of knew the basic level, but I didn't know that in-depth stuff. So whereas now I've got a team that has taken me years to develop that know how I work, and I trust them, and most of them I grew up with, to be fair, so that always helps. Invest in your local area, but that's, you're either one way or the other, where the project side, you like don't want anything to do with that, but like the creative, putting the deals together, finding the deals, the negotiation,
the snagging, making sure that I'm pretty good at making sure that everybody else is doing their job, but also like very cautious that if I was in their position, I'd have no idea what to do. But I'm very good at being like, make sure you're doing it right. And they look at me like, if I were to go home, would you know what to do? No. No idea how long it should take you, but do it quick.
No, absolutely. So in terms of, I guess, the growth of the business, has that sort of come through investors and being able to kind of find the projects and obviously keep delivering that, or are you more focused on like the sourcing and the client side?
So I have a hand in every single element. So I'll do the sourcing myself. Everything then gets ran through my my business partners. I'll always run every deal through them. When we think we found a deal, I hedge my risks tremendously. And they taught me, and listen, when I was doing IB, it was all about hedging your risks. But I would take a structural engineer to the property and he'll check the structure. And then I'll show him what I want to do. And he'll tell me relatively how much this should cost. I then take my principal contractor out and he will identify anything that I should know. And then lastly, the architects, because by then I already know what it should look like. I try to gather evaluation reports in the area. We usually, because we always invest in the same areas, I'll know a friend who did a HMO on the road next door and I'll ask them for the eval report and I'll see the numbers. So I kind of also have a figure of a GDV so I can put it together evaluation pack. Then I put deal analyses on 4 different scenarios depending on offers accepted. When our offer is accepted, we got the ball rolling. So I already know the purchase price. I know how much it should cost for the build. We've exaggerated the build cost. And then for the end value, I already know relatively what they're going to give us, and I've downvalued it. So it puts us in a strong position on the sourcing. When it comes to the development side, I take control of the floor plan and then ensuring that we're getting the maximum use of space. So I'm not somebody who enjoys dead spaces. When you're further out from London, the bigger the room, the better. The nicer it is, the better, because you don't have the luxury of saying I'm in zone 3. So people will actually look at what they're renting. Whereas I've invested in zone 2, London, you could put a shoebox. It will rent. But when you're further out, you do have to be a little bit more creative. And then it's making sure it's maintenance friendly. And then just ensuring that we're going to get licensing, we're checking all the boxes. And I just liaise with my principal contractor throughout, asset managers, surveyors, banks, etc. That's through the development. And then on the exit, we just got a professional photographer and it goes to my property management team. But I'm not fussed with the exit. The client can take it on, give it to whoever. By then it's like, but it's better for the property to stay with us, because if something were to go wrong, if it's a big thing that shouldn't go wrong, our team will fix it immediately, and it's better if we already manage it so we know it. If it's a little thing like the tenant broke the handle off, maybe we won't cover that. That's why I'm always like, let us manage it for the next 2 years, and then we'll give it to you, because you should not have any maintenance problems. And yeah, that's pretty much the system. But I am very, very much hands-on throughout it. I rely on other people a lot, because I think that, and I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, we as human beings can accept that we're imperfect. I can do a lot. I can't play football. And I just don't play football. But when you're running a business, there is no room for that. Your business has to be perfect. Everything has to be working. I can't, give myself to somebody and be like, be me and play football. But I can take the principal contractor part of the business and give it to somebody and be like, run with this.
Absolutely.
And so there's no room in any company. I'm not going to say that my company is perfect. I'm still growing. But in any company, I don't think that there's room for imperfections or faltering. I think that there's a surplus of talent out there. Maybe you can afford to hire somebody, that's okay. Maybe you can afford a consultant, maybe just something. Because if you're trying to grow a company and your reputation gets tarnished, or the company's reputation gets tarnished, that could hinder your growth. And I've seen it happen a few times with people where they get couple of clients that they don't deliver with, and it just means a loss of potential revenue moving forward. So if there's something in your business that you don't feel comfortable with, maybe make it clear, or maybe subcontract that part. Just because if it doesn't go well, you don't want that on you, especially if you're trying to grow. So that's something that I have tried to, I've held on to.
Where did you learn that? Was that kind of like a natural thought that this makes the most sense in business? Or is that something that through experience, or is that something you know from the off?
Growing up, my dad was the CEO of a major telecommunications company in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And it was worth over $1 billion.
Wow.
He also did an MBA at Oxford. And he just talked to me and my brother about business a lot. And it kind of ingrained it into me.
Nice.
And he's taught me so much, and I do refer back to it. one of the things that he told me, he goes, when you're putting an advertisement together, and actually you guys will notice this now that I've said it, but he goes, they'll always put the company logo at the end of the advertisement. And sometimes for the first 10 seconds, you don't know what the advertisement's about, but that's to keep you engaged. Because if the first thing they tell you is McDonald's, you're going to be like, you will mentally switch off because I already know they're selling me something. But when you don't know what it is, you're more likely to stay in tune. And I think it's just the little things like that he told me. That has nothing to do with property. I just thought it was interesting.
Useful, though, yeah,
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's told me little things like that. A lot of it I didn't really understand until I started to divulge into the world of entrepreneurialism and property. And I do think that you need to be a business person first, property second.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely if you're scaling like the way that you are, you need that business acumen 100% because, and I think property is I think it's one of the hardest businesses. I mean, I've had other businesses, obviously, we've got the exhibition business, and compared to the property business, like the stress that goes into to delivering property projects successfully versus the stress that goes, they're different stresses, but there's more stress in property than any other business that I've ever had. And I think it's because you're too reliant on other people in your ecosystem to deliver that you don't necessarily have an employment control over. Estate agents, sellers, conveyancers, contractors, letting agents, tenants. There's just so many things that are out of your control. And when, as a business owner, you tend to be a bit of a control freak, probably speaking for myself there, but it's all those anomalies. That's what creates the stress and uncertainty. But that's where you need robust systems, as you've obviously mentioned.
Also, it is an extremely regulated industry.
Oh yes.
And the laws are always changing, and it's regulation from the get-go. Be it AML checks from the onset. I know I'm foreign, and a lot of my clients are as well. So the whole bringing money from overseas, that's very regulated. And then you have the development stage, like we said, about the 4 meters squared room. If there is no wiggle room, essentially. If you do not meet regulation standards, if you default on a policy, you're hit with a fine. You can't continue. And planning enforcement, I've never been on their radar personally, but I know people that have been. They can be very, very ruthless. I've heard stories where they will force you to tear things down, and they'll just keep hitting you with fines, and the fines can be unlimited. That's a pretty big risk to say, like, I've taken over £100,000 and have popped it into this property, and now I'm getting hit with more fines, and I can't use it to make money. Property is an industry with a lot of horror stories. People tend to lose a lot of money. But I think that kind of that's why I'm always drinking Red Bull. I've got to be alert. Planning enforcement is going to come after me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we just had Des Taylor on a couple of weeks ago. If people want to check out his episode, where his job is to get landlords and developers out of trouble from the council, or at least help assist them around the law. But I mean, it's just, there is so many trip hazards out there. And as you say, if you're not on the forefront of that and educating yourself, there's so many things that can catch you out. And when it goes wrong, because, you've got the bridging, you've got contractors, you've got lack of rent, all these things, it can be very, very costly to not know your stuff. When the deal needs to move fast and the numbers need to stack, there's one name in property who you can trust: Vast Commercial Finance. Whether you're funding a ground-up development, refinancing a HMO, or you need bridging for your next big opportunity, Vast connects you with the right lenders first time. No endless paperwork, no wasted weeks, just straight talking advice and access to the entire market. And if you're not sure what kind of funding you need, Vast will guide you through it with real expertise, fast response, and a genuine interest in making your project work. They're not just brokers, they're partners in your growth. So if you're a developer who needs speed, certainty, and clarity, head to vastcommercialfinance.com and get your next project moving. One
of my business partners, when he first started supporting me, I spent a lot of time complaining. And he said to me, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And I was like, okay, that's right. And then I think I made a mistake, and I was really, really frustrated about it. And it must have been a small mistake, but I felt like there was no room for that. And it wasn't a mistake that I should have made, which is why I was frustrated. And then he said to me, don't be upset about not getting results for work you didn't do. And I think those two that was probably the last time that he ever had to say anything like that to me, because I ran with it. I was like, I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to make sure that as much as possible, if something does go wrong, it's not because I didn't put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
So that I appreciate that he said that to me, honestly, because it really, really helped me out. But I also said to myself, I'm never going to be in a position where somebody needs to say that to me.
Yeah. I love the phrase, which kind of nicely alludes to that, which is Jim Rohn. If you work hard at your job, you'll make a living. Work hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune. And that's that testament that trying to, and I think people mistake what work actually looks like, because it's actually a lot of preparation, and it's stuff that, like you say, educating yourself with the planning, with various regulations like that. Although it doesn't feel like work, it is pushing you in the direction of being a more efficient or property investor in this case. And I think people they don't see that as work, they just think, the traditional way, I'm laying bricks, I'm going to build a house, that's work. Whereas actually the preparation side is just as important to either employ someone like Des, as we say, or get yourself educated where you know exactly, right, this is what I need to do in order to get that result.
I've also seen people that, because I work from home, but also not, so I always like to work elsewhere. And when I was starting off my business, I was trying to start off with somebody else who's also starting their business, but they would spend hours designing the Excel sheet and like watching stuff. And in their head, they were like, as long as it has something to do with the business, it's okay. I'm like, you can do that for the first couple of months, but you can't be a hamster on a hamster wheel. You have to be making sure that you're getting results. And I think what helped me is I started to put targets for myself where I was like, within 6 months, I need to have a client. And that was it. That was all like I was focusing on. Whereas with them, they were just like, oh, I want to be successful as and when that comes, whatever that looks like. I'm here for it. But I think that maybe diminishes your work ethic, but the fire under my ass was like much brighter than the one under theirs, because I had this like strict time scale and deadlines and goals that I set for myself. That meant I was not sat there designing Excel spreadsheets.
I mean, preparation without action is.
That's pretty. Oh, so you just said it in like 2 words, or I've been waffling on for 5 minutes.
No, but it's the same. It's the same. What you're saying was a broader example, but yeah, I think and that is a big thing in property. A lot of people, they spend too much time doing the training and analysing, and they fail to do the main thing, which is take action.
Yeah.
Buy something, find an investor, go and view property. That's the bit that often delivers you the difference between not getting to where you want to get to and being where you want to be.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'm glad. But I mean, yeah, it is true, isn't it? So in terms of, I guess, that action ability, and I suppose you kind of alluded to it earlier on with the kind of confidence, but not too confident.
Yeah.
Do you think you've always been that way inclined to just like a bit of a risk taker to go and take the action? Because a lot of people do fear that kind of stepping stone into taking the action.
No, I definitely feared it. And so I thought that the only way that I could be successful, the safest way for success, would be if I climbed the corporate ladder. And I was like, I'll be in a glass elevator in central London at Liverpool Street, and I will be in a good salary, and that will be success. I've always been somebody who's relatively outside the box. And then I kind of got that, and I sat there and I thought, this is it. This is going to be my life for the foreseeable. Because the longer down a path you go, the narrower it gets. The longer I do this, the harder it will be for me to do anything else. Is this what I want? And it wasn't, but it was just safe. I wanted safe. So I was like, maybe this is what I want. But and when you're wondering or questioning where you are and what you should do, you've kind of already answered the question yourself. Maybe this isn't for you. And so I wrote a book, and I started to flip properties, and I enjoyed it. And then I started to, and I love stuff like this, podcasts and being an extrovert, and that comes with property. And I thought I want to do really well with this. So I took the risk, and luckily it paid off for me. But it did mean that I am in a riskier, more uncomfortable position than I was when I was in my corporate job and when I lived in Manchester. And my friends still have that life, and I visit them, and sometimes I envy them. They have the nice little, they have their weekends. They living that suburban lifestyle, and it's really cute. They're kind of living the American dream in rainy American dream was in flipping long sight. They'd be living it. It's really nice. And then there's me and this like in a constant state of crisis, and I'm constantly stressed and trying to grow something. They can't understand why I would want to do what I do. They think it's glamorous, but they also think it's not safe. I look at them and I'm like, yours is safe, but it's not exciting. And then it's just you and what works for you, what speaks to you.
Absolutely. How do you sort of deal with that stress?
It's become my normal. So now I'm like, now it's not so stressed. I think if like my heart rate went down one day, I then have a heart attack because then my heart would be like, something's wrong. I think the high blood pressure is just my normal. But no, I think when you enjoy it, you don't feel it so much. Because I'm constantly thinking about it, but not in a I'm dreading it kind of way. In that we just drafted the floor plan. I'm really excited about how it's going to look. I'm going to put a plant in this corner. Whereas when I used to work corporate, I used to think about it, but my Sundays were ruined because I just didn't want Monday to come. I was like dreading it. And then I'd be sat on my job and I just felt, I wasn't bored because I was like busy, but it felt soul sucking almost. And then people in the office, I don't know if this is, sometimes some people are nice, but then sometimes some people are like standoffish because they're like, they can be competitive in the office. And it's not always a very nice environment. And I know that that's across the board. It can be a bit microaggression, micromanagement. I never personally felt like there was any need for it. We were all in, you know, on the corporate ladder. I mean, especially when I was beginning. But there can be some of that. And I just feel like it can wear you down a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's self-inflicted stress, isn't it? Which is always different to any other stress. And I imagine you've kind of, for me, I've kind of built up that kind of thicker skin to deal with the stress. And like you say, I think most entrepreneurs or people that are kind of, you know, a long way down the line will probably agree with that testament that actually if the stress stops, then
something's wrong.
Apple Watch is going to be flashing saying heart rate too low.
Something's gone wrong. But also when you surround yourself with people that have been doing it long enough, I'll speak to them and I'll be like, we have evaluation booked in today and I'm stressed out about it. And they're like, oh, that's so cute because you do this long enough and that'll be normal. And I think that when you're at the beginning of the journey, you're probably going to be on high alert because you're very conscious of everything. But the longer you do it, the more relationships you build, you'll be okay. And the people that I lean on and that back me, they remind me of that. Because the things I get stressed out about, they could do in their sleep. And I'm like, I'm going to be like you someday.
Promise. So I suppose to round the episode off then, what advice would you give to somebody that is maybe in that full-time position and maybe wants a bit more from their life? You know, how can they make that leap into entrepreneurship and property?
If it's in property, I'd say if you can begin by investing in something, only because even if you didn't want to do property full time, it will be residual income. A lot of people in their 9-to-5s have invested in real estate. So I'd say invest, but I say do not go in blind. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that you need to learn everything because everybody will tell you that you will always still be learning. If you're going to wait for the day that you know everything, you will wait forever because that day just won't come. And I would say that to everybody. I always say it to myself as well. So find somebody that you can rely on, potentially an investment agency that has a track record. You're buying the property in your own name, not JV, just because with JVs, you're usually tying your credit score with somebody else. If you're going to sell, that's usually okay if you can sell immediately. But I've had incidences where people have JV'd with other people that have bad credit scores and it does impact you. If you can afford, of course, to invest yourself. This is like a blanket advice. Then do that. Try to learn as much as possible. See how it goes if you'd like to do it again. Take it from that. Do not just quit your day job because when you have that 9-to-5, it's kind of like going around the Monopoly board. Pass, go, collect 200. The month will come and you'll get that income and you'll be okay. Especially since with your first development, you should not be taking on all of the stress of it. You should be giving that to somebody who's more experienced.
I like it. That's my advice. Yeah, good. So basically, come speak to you.
Yeah.
get an investment on the go.
See, he's so good at just summarizing what I need to take you around everywhere with me and save the people that speak to me.
So what Miriam is saying,
I can say in 2 words.
No, it's brilliant. But honestly, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I know it's a long way up from London.
That's right.
But it's been a pleasure to hear your side of success, what your opinion is on it, and I think lots for people to unpick.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed this, so thank you.
Good. Thank you very much for tuning in. Obviously, a lot to unpick there. Achieving an incredible amount at such a young age, and particularly understanding it from a mindset perspective, going from that kind of job security into property, and kind of, I suppose, the mindset and the kind of foresight that you've got to have within property to not get caught up and tripped up. So as I always say every episode, please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.